This is the rural Australia property in small spaces, and its original design plan was a shared music studio. But today, I'm going to turn it into a flower shop. I decided to start with the upstairs, which I'm going to make into the living space. The first thing that I put in was the bathroom. I wanted to keep the windows available for the main parts of the house, so I walled off a section that did not have any windows and used that as the bathroom. I kept the fittings in the bathroom very basic, so clean tiles, a shower, a toilet, and a sink. I also wanted to keep most of the materials in this build natural, so woods, stones, and cozy fabrics in neutral palettes. Because this bathroom is on the smaller side, I tried to keep the decor light and less cluttered, mostly sticking to the basics. Some aspects of the bathroom that I really love are the mirror, the shower floor, and the rounded shower wall. Next was the bedroom. This space was a bit of a challenge because it was quite small. I envisioned a woman with a cat or a dog running this shop and opted for a single bed to maximize the space, and one of my favorite smaller nightstands. I wanted this room to feel cozy and comfortable, and chose soft lighting with candles and the hanging star lights from the Christmas lineup. I also continued the natural material use through the furniture pieces, like the shelves. Nature-inspired art helped tie this bedroom into the flower shop theme and kept the color palette soft. And the resizing tool became my best friend through the whole build, allowing me to decorate without compromising the theme. After placing a small wardrobe, it was time to move on to the hallway. This passage is quite small, so I kept the decor limited. A full-size mirror to check outfits, a console to dump keys and mail, an elegant lamp, and some nature-inspired art. Due to the lack of space in this apartment, I decided to scrap the living room and just fit the kitchen into the remaining space. The balcony will double as a living room. Once again, I kept the decor simple. I wanted this kitchen to feel light and airy, as it is the largest room and the one with the most natural light. Once the kitchen was fitted with the basics and felt clean and inviting, it was time to work on the dining room. Now, I tried a few different tables in this corner, but none seemed to fit quite right. In the end, I decided to create my own by using 2 corner tables. Some chairs and flowers helped liven up the space and make it feel cozy, a good place to work and dine. The final spot to make over was the balcony. Since it's doubling as a private outdoor space and a living space, I wanted to have enough seating for at least a guest and a place to set drinks and snacks. It is also a narrow space, so I had to choose furniture that was proportionate. To create a bit more privacy, I added these hanging plants to the front railing, just in front of the seating area. On the other side of the balcony, I added a chair to lounge in come evening and watch the world pass by. A plant and some weathered floorboards, and it was time to start the shop portion of the build. I started the first floor off with the flower cooler. I had to play around with this a bit because there is no fridge with glass doors, and I wasn't keen on a stainless steel fridge. So using tall panels, wooden shelves, and glass doors, I created my own flower cooler. It took some adjusting, but after a bit of fussing with the panel placement, I was able to start decorating this cooler. I placed lights under each shelf, 3 per shelf to be exact, in order to light up the cooler. And some decorative lights on the top of each shelving unit. I could finally start filling the cooler with plants. Of course, I had to resize most of my selections, as the original sizes were a bit too tall for the shelves. I spent some time organizing the plants on the shelves, alternating between potted plants and cut flowers for each row. I tried to keep the placement of the plants random, but old habits die hard, so each row has a pattern. Because the lower shelf is hard to see, I chose to place more stem-like arrangements for these shelves. I tried a few different options for the doors of the cooler, and as much as I wanted to have glass shower doors that actually opened, it was far too reflective and it was difficult to see the flowers. In the end, I chose a glass shower wall and sized it up to fit 3 panels perfectly. I then worked on the checkout counter, adding essentials to run a shop, like a laptop, a chair, a bit of art, decorating the counter with plants and lanterns, and some items that could be used as impulse purchases, like these watering cans. I remember one time when I was young, I went to a flower shop that had a nice circular stair-step display in the middle of the store. I wanted to recreate that here, but there are no curved stairs, so I went with normal stairs and lined them up to create the display. And of course, I had to cover that with plants as well. I'd filled the perimeter of the shop with displays, so now it was time to start decorating the center of the shop. I needed to keep in mind the flow of passageways, so I opted for a round table and covered it with items that you might see in a flower shop or greenhouse. Of course, I got a little distracted and I had to add these star lamps into the back window. Then it was back to work trying to find some items that would fit into the flower shop theme. This tote bag was large enough to hold some cut flowers, and since we have the option of some flowers that are not in a vase, I took the opportunity. The last display that I added to the shop was this standalone shelf. I tried to find a few more items that I could use as merchandise. It was a little challenging to find items that you would sell in a flower shop, which sounds silly given the amount of clutter items available in small spaces. But I settled on some sunglasses, plants and flowers, and some gardening tools. I finished up with a little extra clutter and some lighting, and then it was time to complete the patio. This is the part that I was most excited for, and was actually the inspiration for the whole project. I wanted the front of the shop to feel lush and inviting, like the flower shop was sneaking out onto the street, but with a cozy coffee shop feel. I started with the same weathered boards that I used on the balcony, and then created some shade with the umbrella. Then it was time for the fun part, creating the botanical oasis. Now, I knew that I didn't just want piles of green all over the building, so I tried to incorporate items that went with the plants. Using small tables and stools, I was able to create plant stands and elevate some of the smaller items instead of scaling up all the plants to the same size. I also wanted to bring in some more light to the patio, so I pulled in some lanterns to create a cozy glow. I really wanted to have an old-fashioned bike with a basket of flowers on the front. There wasn't a good basket choice, but there was a crate. I tried to put the crate on the front, but it didn't work out. The crate, however, did fit on the back, and it gave me enough space to fill with larger bouquets. As I was looking through the furniture menus, I found these trolleys. Keeping with the natural materials, I chose the wooden trolley. I dressed it up with some cut flowers and branches which fit perfectly into these slots. It was a little tedious to get everything lined up, but it was worth it. To fill the rest of the cart, I used more of the wooden crates and loaded them up with plants. It was also helpful to utilize the Move with Arrows button to precisely place the pots in the crate. For some final touches, I added this rustic ladder and some gardening tools to the trolley. I also snuck in a wind chime because I love the sound of them. The stairs leading up to the apartment felt a bit dark, so I used the same lanterns to light them up. And to complete the build, I chose a painting of a bouquet and used this as a sign for the shop. I used the Move with Arrow button to hang the painting on the window. And I also placed one on the upper balcony. And with that, the build was complete. I took a building that was meant for two budding musicians and reimagined it as a cute flower shop with a cozy apartment above. What do you think? Would you move in here? If this helped you relax, you're always welcome back.